The millionaire was about to sign bankruptcy at 8 a.m. until the cleaning lady saw the error no one else saw. What would you risk to save a stranger? When you are invisible to the world, would you dare to step into the light, knowing it could cost you everything you have left? This is the story of Elena Sanchez, a 32-year-old single mother and immigrant who worked the graveyard shift cleaning offices in a Manhattan skyscraper. She was invisible, ignored, dismissed. But on one cold November morning, Eleanor saw something that no one else in that building full of Harvard graduates and Wall Street experts could see. And what she did next would change not just one life, but her own destiny forever. Support the channel by leaving a like and a comment, and let us get to our story. 6:43 in the morning. The 47th floor of the Pierce Holdings Tower in Midtown Manhattan was silent except for the hum of the heating system and the soft squeak of Elena's cleaning cart wheels on the polished marble floor. Elena Sanchez pushed the cart slowly, her shoulders aching from 5 hours of work. Her hands were raw from chemicals, her eyes burned from exhaustion, but she could not stop. She never stopped. Stopping meant thinking, and thinking meant remembering that her 12-year-old daughter Sophia needed new shoes, that the landlord had called twice about late rent, that her 2002 Honda Civic was making a grinding noise she could not afford to fix. Elena was invisible here. She knew that. The executives walked past her as if she were furniture. The junior analysts never made eye contact. To them, she was just the woman who emptied their trash and wiped their desks. And that was fine. Invisible meant safe. Invisible meant steady paychecks. In this country, for a woman like her, steady was a gift. She reached the executive suite at the end of the hall. The brass nameplate on the double doors read, "Arthur Pierce, Chief Executive Officer." Elena knocked softly, waited, then used her master key to enter. The office was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the awakening city. The furniture was dark wood and leather. Everything here cost more than Elena would earn in a year. But something was wrong. The desk was a mess. Papers were scattered everywhere. An empty whiskey glass sat on top of a stack of folders. The chair was pushed back at an angle, as if someone had left in a hurry. Eleanor had cleaned this office every weekday for 3 years. Mr. Pierce was always neat, obsessively neat. This chaos was new. She began to organize the papers carefully, making sure not to disturb any order that might matter. As she lifted a leather portfolio to wipe the desk beneath it, the folder fell open. The word on the first page made her freeze. Bankruptcy. Elena's heart jumped. She should close it. She should look away. This was none of her business, but her eyes were already scanning the page. The filing was scheduled for this morning, 8 a.m. Less than 90 minutes from now, Arthur Pierce was about to declare bankruptcy. This man, whose company occupied 12 floors of this tower, who drove a Mercedes S-Class, who donated millions to hospitals and schools, was losing everything. Elena felt a strange pain in her chest. She had never spoken to Arthur Pierce beyond a polite good morning, but she had cleaned his office for years. She had seen the photos on his credenza, his late wife, his daughter who had died young. This man had suffered, and now this. She was about to close the folder when something caught her attention. Page 7, a detailed list of creditors. Elena had always been good with numbers, unnaturally good. Her father used to joke that she could add a grocery receipt in her head faster than a calculator. When she was young in El Salvador, before they came to America, she had dreamed of being an accountant. But dreams were luxuries immigrants could not afford. Her eyes moved down the list of debts. Suppliers, contractors, banks. The amounts were staggering, millions upon millions. At the bottom of page 7, in bold letters, total debt, $64 million. Something felt wrong. Elena glanced at the door. She knew she should not be doing this, but her hands were already moving, pulling out her phone, opening the calculator app. She began adding the numbers, line by line, carefully. First creditor, 3,200,000. Second creditor, 7,800,000. Third creditor, 2,500,000. She continued down the list, her thumb moving quickly across the screen. Her heart was pounding now. The numbers were not making sense. When she reached the last creditor, she double-checked her work. Then she checked it again. The total was not $64 million. It was $47 million. Someone had added $17 million in debt that did not exist. Eleanor's hands began to shake. She looked at the folder again, studying the numbers more carefully now. Every creditor on the list had a contract number, an invoice reference, a contact person. Everything looked legitimate, but the math was wrong, deliberately wrong. This was fraud. Elena's mind raced back to a memory she tried hard to forget. Brooklyn, 15 years ago, her father's small bodega on Atlantic Avenue. He had worked 16-hour days for 20 years to build that business. Then one month, the accountant they trusted showed them papers proving they owed $80,000 in back taxes and fees. Her father, who barely spoke English, signed everything. They lost the store. 3 months later, they discovered the accountant had invented half the debt and pocketed the difference. Her father never recovered. He died 2 years later, his heart broken along with his dreams. Elena stared at the bankruptcy papers in front of her. History was repeating itself, but this time she could stop it. She looked at the clock on the wall, 6:55 a.m. Arthur Pierce would arrive soon. The lawyers would arrive. At 8 a.m. he would sign these papers, believing he owed $64 million. His company would be liquidated, his life would be destroyed, and whoever created this fraud would get away with it. Elena's hands were trembling so badly she could barely hold her phone, but she managed to open the camera app. She photographed page 7, then page 6, then the cover page with the signatures and the 8 a.m. appointment time. Her mind was screaming at her to stop. What was she doing? She was a cleaning lady. Who would believe her? Who would even listen? But then she thought of Sophia, her beautiful, brilliant daughter who wanted to be a doctor. Sophia, who believed her mother was brave. Eleanor grabbed a yellow sticky note from the desk organizer. She found a pen. Her handwriting was shaky but clear. Mr. Pierce, do not sign. The numbers on page 7 are wrong. The total is 47 million, not 64 million. Someone added 17 million that is not there. Check before you sign. She pressed the note onto the first page of the bankruptcy folder. Then she closed it, set it exactly where she had found it, and walked out of the office, closing the door behind her. Elena walked quickly down the hallway toward the service elevator, her heart hammering against her ribs. What had she just done? She pressed the button for the basement level, where the staff locker room was located. The elevator descended slowly, and with each floor, Elena's panic grew stronger. She had just interfered in the private business affairs of a billionaire. She had touched confidential documents. She had taken photographs without permission. She could be fired. Worse, she could be arrested. The elevator doors opened. Elena stumbled out, rushing toward the locker room. Her hands fumbled with her combination lock. She needed to grab her things and leave. She needed to disappear before anyone noticed what she had done. But as she pulled her worn backpack from the locker, her phone buzzed. A text from her neighbor, Mrs. Chen, who watched Sophia in the mornings before school. Sophia asking if you can bring pancake mix on way home. We are out. Eleanor closed her eyes. Sophia, her reason for everything. Her reason for taking this job, her reason for staying invisible, for never causing trouble, for accepting every insult and dismissal with silence. And now she had just risked it all. She sat down on the wooden bench, her legs too weak to hold her. The locker room smelled of industrial soap and old paint. 2 other cleaning staff members were at the far end, changing out of their uniforms, speaking quietly in Polish. They did not notice Elena's distress. She checked the time on her phone. 7:18 a.m. She should leave. Clock out. Go home. Pretend this never happened. But her feet would not move. Elena thought about Arthur Pierce, sitting at that desk, pen in hand, about to sign away everything he had built. She thought about the person who had created this fraud, who had counted on everyone being too busy or too trusting to check the math. She thought about her father, signing papers he did not understand, trusting people he should not have trusted. No, she could not leave. Not yet. Elena stood up, closed her locker, and walked back to the elevator. Instead of going down to the exit, she pressed the button for the ground floor lobby. Her shift was over, but she would wait, just for a little while, just to make sure he saw the note. The lobby of Pierce Holdings was already coming to life. Security guards changed shifts. Delivery workers brought in coffee and catering for morning meetings. Elena found a seat on a leather bench near the elevator bank where she could see the parking garage entrance. She waited. At 7:39 a.m., a black Mercedes pulled into the reserved spot closest to the executive elevator. Elena's breath caught. Arthur Pierce stepped out of the car, but this was not the confident, perfectly groomed executive she had seen in business magazines and company newsletters. This man looked destroyed. His suit was wrinkled. His tie was loose. His salt and pepper hair was uncombed. His face was grey. He looked like a man who had not slept in days, a man who had already given up. Eleanor watched him walk slowly toward the elevator, his shoulders bent, carrying a briefcase that seemed too heavy for him. The security guard greeted him, but Arthur barely responded. He pressed the elevator button and waited, staring at nothing. Elena wanted to run to him, to tell him about the note, to explain, but fear paralyzed her. What if she was wrong? What if she had misunderstood something? What if there was a reason for the $17 million difference that her simple mind could not comprehend? The elevator doors opened. Arthur stepped inside. The doors closed. He was gone. Elena sat frozen on the bench, her mind spinning. She had done what she could. She had left the note. Now it was up to him to see it, to believe it, to check it. She should go home. But she could not move. Minutes passed like hours. 7:45, 7:52, 7:58. At 8:03 a.m., Elena's phone rang. She looked at the screen. Unknown number. She almost did not answer, but something made her press the green button. "Hello?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Is this Elena Sanchez?" A man's voice, shaking, urgent. "Yes. Who is this?" "This is Arthur Pierce. Elena, are you still in the building? Please tell me you have not left yet." Elena's heart stopped. Yes. I am in the lobby. Do not leave. Do not go anywhere. I need to see you. Right now, I am coming down." The call ended. Elena stared at her phone in disbelief. Her hands were shaking so badly she nearly dropped it. 3 minutes later, the executive elevator doors opened, and Arthur Pierce walked out. His eyes were red, his face was wet with tears. He looked around the lobby frantically until his eyes found Eleanor. Then he walked straight toward her, moving faster than she had ever seen him move. Elena stood up, her legs trembling. She did not know whether to run or stay. Arthur stopped in front of her, breathing hard. In his hand, he held the yellow, sticky note. "You wrote this?" he asked, his voice breaking. Elena nodded, unable to speak. Arthur Pierce, CEO of a $60 million company, a man who commanded boardrooms and negotiated with Wall Street, looked at the cleaning lady standing before him and did something Eleanor never expected. He started to cry. "You saved my life," he whispered. "You saved everything." Elena did not understand. She shook her head, confused. The numbers were wrong. I just thought you should know before you signed." Arthur wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. He looked around the lobby, suddenly aware that people were watching. The security guards, the delivery workers, the early arriving office staff. He lowered his voice. "Elena, I need you to come upstairs with me. Right now. There are people coming to that office in 15 minutes, and I need you there. I need you to tell them what you told me." Fear crashed over Elena like a wave. "Mr. Pierce, I do not understand. I should not have looked at those papers. I am sorry. I just wanted to help." "You did help. You did more than help. Elena, please. I know you are scared. I know this is insane. But I need you to trust me. Will you come upstairs?" Elena thought of Sophia. She thought of her job, her rent, her broken car, all the fragile pieces of her life that could shatter with one wrong move. But she also thought of her father, of the bodega, of all the times she had been invisible when she should have been seen. "Okay," she whispered. "I will come." Arthur Pierce nodded, relief flooding his face. He gestured toward the executive elevator. "Thank you. You have no idea what this means." As they rode up together in silence, Elena noticed that Arthur was clutching the sticky note in his hand like it was a lifeline. She also noticed that his hands were shaking just as badly as hers. When the elevator doors opened on the 47th floor, Elena saw several men in expensive suits waiting in the hallway outside Arthur's office. They were checking their watches, holding leather folders, looking impatient. One of them, a tall man with silver hair and cold blue eyes, saw Arthur and smiled. But it was not a kind smile. "Arthur," the man said smoothly, "right on time. Shall we get this over with? I know this is difficult for you." Arthur stared at the man for a long moment. Then he said very quietly, "Hello, Marcus." "Yes, let us get this over with." Marcus Thorne had the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers. Sharp jawline, perfect teeth, silver hair that looked expensive even from a distance. He wore a navy suit that probably cost more than Elena made in 3 months. Everything about him screamed success, power, control. But when his eyes landed on Elena, standing beside Arthur in her cleaning uniform, his expression flickered, just for a second. Confusion, then dismissal. "Arthur," Marcus said, his voice smooth as silk, "I did not realize we were bringing staff to the signing. Is there a problem?" Arthur did not answer immediately. He walked past Marcus and the 3 lawyers standing behind him, heading toward his office. "Everyone, please come inside. We need to talk before anything gets signed." Eleanor followed, her heart pounding so hard she thought everyone could hear it. She'd never been in a meeting before. She'd never been invited to anything except the annual staff Christmas party in the cafeteria. The office looked different now. Morning light poured through the windows, turning the city beyond into gold. The papers were still scattered on the desk, but now 5 leather chairs had been arranged in a semicircle facing it. Marcus and his lawyers took their seats. Arthur remained standing behind his desk. Elena stood awkwardly near the door, wanting to disappear into the wall. "Please, Elena, sit down," Arthur said, gesturing to a chair he pulled from the corner and placed beside his desk. Marcus laughed. It was a cold sound. "Arthur, I understand you are under stress, but what exactly is happening here? We have a signing scheduled. The bankruptcy judge is expecting these documents by 9 a.m. Your company is drowning in $64 million of debt. Every day you delay costs you more money you do not have. Why are we wasting time?" Arthur picked up the bankruptcy folder from his desk. His hands were steadier now. "Because this morning someone saw something that I missed. That my accountants missed, that apparently everyone missed." He opened the folder to page 7 and placed it on the desk where everyone could see it. "This document lists my total debts as $64 million. That number is wrong." One of the lawyers, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses, leaned forward. "Mr. Pierce, I can assure you that document has been reviewed by 3 independent accounting firms. The numbers are accurate." "No," Arthur said quietly, "they are not." Marcus's smile was still in place, but his eyes had gone hard. "Arthur, I understand this is emotional for you. I understand you are looking for any reason to delay the inevitable, but mathematics does not lie. You owe $64 million. Your company cannot pay. This is over." Arthur turned to Eleanor. His voice was gentle. "Eleanor, can you tell these gentlemen what you found this morning?" Every eye in the room turned to her. Eleanor felt her throat close. These men in their $1,000 suits were staring at her like she was an insect that had crawled onto their table. She could see the questions in their faces. Who is this woman? Why is she here? What could a cleaning lady possibly have to say about corporate finance? She almost could not speak, but then she remembered the yellow note. She remembered writing it with shaking hands, knowing she might lose everything. She had already taken the risk. She might as well finish it. The math is wrong, Elena said softly. I added up all the creditors on page 7. The total is not $64 million. It is $47 million. Silence. Then Marcus laughed again, louder this time. Arthur, this is insulting. You're delaying a bankruptcy signing because your cleaning lady thinks she found an error. Do you understand how absurd this is? Add it up, Arthur said, his voice sharp now. Add up every number on that page. Do it right now. The thin lawyer pulled out his phone and opened a calculator app. His fingers moved across the screen. Elena watched his face. She saw the exact moment he realized she was right. His eyes widened. His finger froze. Well? Arthur demanded. The lawyer looked up, his face pale. There appears to be a discrepancy. The individual line items total to approximately 47 million, but the summary states 64. Marcus stood up abruptly. That is impossible. Let me see that. He grabbed the document, his eyes scanning the page. Elena could see his jaw tightening. A vein pulsed in his temple. This is clearly a clerical error, Marcus said. A typo, nothing more. It does not change the fact that Arthur cannot pay his debts. Even 47 million is more than this company has. It is not a typo, Arthur said. His voice had changed. It was colder now, harder. It is fraud, Marcus, and you know it. The room went silent. Even the lawyers seemed to stop breathing. Marcus set the document down carefully. When he spoke, his voice was dangerously calm. That is a very serious accusation, Arthur. I hope you have proof. Arthur opened his desk drawer and pulled out his laptop. He opened it, typed something, then turned the screen so everyone could see. Last night at 11:47 p.m., I received an email from someone I did not expect to hear from. Your former executive assistant, Marcus, Jennifer Chen. She quit 6 weeks ago, remember? You told me she left for personal reasons. Marcus said nothing, but Eleanor saw his hands curl into fists. Arthur continued. Jennifer sent me copies of emails you sent her. Emails where you instructed her to alter creditor reports, where you told her to inflate invoice amounts, where you promised her $50,000 to keep quiet. He clicked to another screen. She also sent me bank statements showing that you have been systematically moving company assets into offshore accounts for the past 8 months. You have been stealing from Pierce Holdings while simultaneously inflating our debt to make bankruptcy look inevitable. Marcus's face had gone white. That is a lie. Jennifer Chen is a disgruntled employee. Those documents are forged. The FBI will determine that, Arthur said quietly. I forwarded everything to them at 7:56 this morning. They are very interested in meeting with you, Marcus. One of the lawyers stood up quickly. Mr. Thorne, I think we need to speak privately before this continues. But Marcus was not listening. He was staring at Elena with pure hatred in his eyes. You, he said, his voice shaking with rage. This is because of you. You stupid, interfering... Enough! Arthur's voice cut through the room like a blade. Elena Sanchez saved my company this morning. She saw what million-dollar accountants and Ivy League lawyers missed. She had the courage to speak up when she had everything to lose. You, Marcus, are finished. Marcus opened his mouth, but no words came out. He looked around the room, searching for allies, for an escape. But the lawyers were already gathering their papers, their faces carefully neutral. They wanted no part of this disaster. Get out of my office, Arthur said. All of you. The signing is cancelled. My attorneys will be in touch about criminal charges, Marcus. I suggest you find a very good lawyer. The office emptied quickly. The lawyers practically ran for the elevator. Marcus Thorne left last, his face twisted with rage and fear, but he said nothing more. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Elena and Arthur were alone. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Elena could hear her own heartbeat. She could hear the hum of the air conditioning, the distant sound of traffic 47 floors below. Then Arthur Pierce sat down in his leather chair and put his face in his hands. His shoulders shook. Elena realized he was crying. Not the quiet tears from earlier, but deep, wrenching sobs that came from a place of profound relief and exhaustion. Elena did not know what to do. She stood there, frozen, wanting to help, but not knowing how. She was still just the cleaning lady. This was still not her world. Finally, Arthur looked up. His eyes were red, his face wet, but there was something new in his expression. "Hope, I am sorry," he said, his voice rough. "I am sorry you had to see that. I am sorry I dragged you into this nightmare." "You did not drag me," Elena said softly. "I chose to write that note." Arthur nodded slowly. He pulled a tissue from the box on his desk and wiped his face. "Elena, do you mind if I ask you something personal?" "Okay." "Why did you do it? You could have walked away. You could have ignored what you saw. Most people would have. Why did you risk your job, your safety, everything, to help a man you do not even know?" Eleanor looked down at her hands. They were rough and scarred from years of hard work. She thought about how to answer, how to explain something she barely understood herself. "My father had a small store in Brooklyn," she said quietly. "A bodega. He worked so hard. Every day, 16 hours, 17 hours. He wanted to build something for our family, but someone cheated him, an accountant. They made up debts that were not real, just like what happened to you. My father did not speak English well. He did not understand the papers. He signed everything. We lost the store. We lost everything." She looked up at Arthur. "My father died 2 years later. His heart. But I think it was really because his dream died first." Arthur closed his eyes. "I am so sorry. When I saw those papers on your desk, I saw my father. I thought maybe this time someone could stop it. Maybe this time the person being cheated did not have to lose everything." She paused. "I did not know if you would listen to me. I am nobody. But I had to try." Arthur stood up and walked around the desk. He pulled a chair next to Eleanor and sat down, so they were at the same level. "Eleanor, you are not nobody. Do you understand me? You are not invisible. What you did this morning required more intelligence, more courage, and more integrity than I have seen in this entire building. You saved my company. You saved my life." Elena shook her head. "I just did math. Anyone could have, but no one did. No one else saw it. 3 accounting firms reviewed those documents. My own financial team reviewed them. Marcus counted on everyone being too busy, too trusting, too lazy to actually verify the numbers, but you saw it. You saw it because you cared enough to look." Arthur leaned forward, his expression intense. "Elena, I need to tell you something. Something I have never told anyone in this company. My father lost his business to fraud too, 30 years ago. A partner embezzled everything. My father was so ashamed, so broken, that he never tried to build anything again. He died believing he was a failure." Elena's eyes widened. "I did not know. No one does. But that is why I built Pierce Holdings. That is why I have spent my whole life trying to create something honest, something solid, something that could not be stolen. And this morning, I almost lost it the exact same way my father did. Until you stopped it." He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city. "Elena, I want to offer you a job." Elena's breath caught. "Mr. Pierce, I already have a job. I clean this building. I know. And you are excellent at it. But that is not what I am talking about." He turned back to her. "Your talent for seeing details, for understanding numbers, for finding errors that others miss, that is rare, that is valuable. I want you to work in my internal audit department." Elena stared at him. "I do not have a degree. I never went to college. I do not care about degrees right now. I care about talent. I care about integrity. I will pay for your training. Everything you need to learn, the company will provide. Accounting courses, financial analysis, whatever it takes. But I want you on my team, Elena. I want you helping me make sure this company stays clean." Elena could not breathe. This was not real. This could not be happening. "The position pays $6,500 a month," Arthur continued. "Full benefits, health insurance for you and your daughter, and I will set up an education fund for Sophia. Full scholarship for college when she is ready. $6,500. Elena made $1,300 a month cleaning. This was 5 times that. 5 times. With that money she could fix her car, pay her rent on time, buy Sophia new shoes, new clothes, books, maybe even save money, maybe even dream. "I do not know what to say," Elena whispered. "Say yes," Arthur said gently. "Say yes, and let me prove to you that good people still get rewarded in this world. Not always, not often enough, but sometimes." Elena thought about her father, about the bodega, about all the years she had spent being invisible, being silent, being safe, and she thought about Sophia, about the kind of mother she wanted to be, the kind of mother who taught her daughter that courage mattered, that standing up was worth the risk. "Yes," Elena said. "Yes, I will take the job." Arthur smiled. It was the first real smile Elena had seen on his face. "Thank you. You will start Monday. Take the rest of this week off. Paid. Spend time with your daughter. Process everything that just happened. On Monday, I will introduce you to Claire Bennett. She runs our internal audit department. She will be your mentor." Elena stood up, her legs shaky. "Mr. Pierce, I do not know how to thank you." "You already did. You saved everything I have built. This is me saying thank you." Eleanor nodded, not trusting herself to speak. She walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. "Mr. Pierce? What will happen to Marcus Thorne?" Arthur's expression hardened. "The FBI will investigate. If Jennifer's evidence holds up, and I believe it will, Marcus will spend the next 10 years in prison. He tried to destroy me. He tried to steal a company that employs 400 people. He will pay for that." Eleanor nodded. Justice. Finally, someone who committed fraud would actually face consequences. She left the office and walked to the elevator in a daze. When she stepped outside into the November morning, the cold air shocked her back to reality. She pulled out her phone and called Mrs. Chen. "Elena, is everything okay? You sound strange." "Everything is okay," Elena said and started to cry. "Everything is going to be okay. Tell Sophia I am coming home. Tell her I have good news." Elena spent the weekend in a state of disbelief. She told Sophia everything. Her daughter, wise beyond her 12 years, listened with wide eyes and then hugged her mother so tightly Elena could barely breathe. "I knew you were brave, Mama," Sophia whispered. "I always knew." On Monday morning, Elena stood in front of her bathroom mirror, wearing clothes she had bought at a thrift store on Saturday. A simple black blazer, grey pants, a white blouse. She looked different. She felt different. But as she rode the subway to Midtown, doubt crept in. What if she could not do this? What if she failed? What if everyone in that department saw her as just a cleaning lady pretending to be something she was not? She arrived at Pierce Holdings at 8:30. Arthur had sent her detailed instructions. She was to go directly to the 15th floor, to the internal audit department, and ask for Claire Bennett. The 15th floor looked nothing like the executive suite. It was quieter, more serious. Rows of cubicles filled with people staring at computer screens, surrounded by stacks of papers and file folders. Elena found the reception desk. A young woman with red hair and kind eyes looked up. "Can I help you? I am Elena Sanchez. I'm supposed to meet Claire Bennett." The receptionist's eyes widened slightly. "Oh, you are Elena. Everyone has been talking about you. Wait here, I will get Claire. Everyone has been talking about you." Elena's stomach tightened. What were they saying? A moment later, a woman in her mid-50s appeared. She had short grey hair, sharp green eyes, and an air of no-nonsense competence. She wore a simple navy dress and carried a tablet. "Elena Sanchez," she extended her hand. "I am Claire Bennett. Welcome to Internal Audit." Elena shook her hand, trying not to show how nervous she was. "Thank you for having me." Claire smiled. It was a warm smile, but there was something measuring in her gaze. "Arthur called me personally on Friday. He told me what you did. That was impressive work. I just saw an error." "No, you saw an error that 3 accounting firms missed. That is not luck. That is skill." Claire gestured down the hallway. "Come with me. I will show you your desk and introduce you to the team." As they walked through the department, Elena felt eyes following her. Whispers. She caught fragments of conversations. "That is her? The cleaning lady. I heard she does not even have a degree." Claire either did not notice or chose to ignore it. She led Elena to a small cubicle near the back of the floor. It had a desk, a computer, and a window with a view of the city. "This is yours," Claire said. "Your computer login information is in this envelope. I will spend today going over our systems, our procedures, and what your initial responsibilities will be. But first, let me introduce you to the team." Claire called over 3 people, 2 men and 1 woman, all in their 30s, all wearing business casual clothes that looked expensive. "This is David, Rebecca, and Paul. They are senior auditors. You will be working with them as you learn." David, tall with dark hair and a friendly smile, shook Elena's hand warmly. "Welcome aboard. We need all the help we can get. This place is drowning in work." Rebecca, a slim blonde woman with glasses, smiled politely, but said nothing. Paul, heavyset with a receding hairline, gave Elena a limp handshake and a look that was not quite hostile but definitely cold. "So you are the famous Elena, the one who saved the company." There was something mocking in his tone. Elena felt her face flush. "I am just here to learn and help," Elena said quietly. "Well, auditing is not exactly cleaning," Paul said. "It requires very specific knowledge, very technical skills. But I am sure Claire will get you up to speed eventually." Claire's expression hardened. "Paul, Elena is here because she has exactly the kind of eye for detail we need. Arthur personally recommended her. I expect you to treat her with respect and help her succeed." Paul shrugged. "Of course. I'm just being realistic." The rest of the day was overwhelming. Claire walked Elena through the audit software, the filing systems, the protocols for investigating discrepancies. Elena took notes furiously, trying to absorb everything. By 5 in the evening, her head was pounding. But she felt something else too. Excitement. This was challenging. This was interesting. This was using her brain in ways she had not used it in years. As she was packing up to leave, Rebecca approached her desk. "Elena, can I talk to you for a minute?" "Of course." Rebecca glanced around to make sure no one was listening. "I just wanted to warn you about Paul and some of the others. There has been a lot of talk since Friday. The story about what you did got out. It is all over the company." Elena's heart sank. "What are people saying?" Rebecca hesitated. "Some people are impressed. Some people think it is inspiring, but others—" She paused. "Others are saying that Arthur only gave you this job because he feels guilty, or because he wants to look progressive, or because—" She stopped, looking uncomfortable. "Because what?" Elena asked, though she already knew. "Because there is something going on between you two," Rebecca finished quietly. "I do not believe that, for the record. I think what you did was amazing, but I wanted you to know what people are saying, so you are prepared." Elena felt sick. Of course that was what they would say. A poor immigrant woman gets a high-paying job from a rich man. There had to be something dirty about it. She could not have actually earned it. "Thank you for telling me," Elena said, keeping her voice steady. Rebecca squeezed her shoulder. Just keep your head down and do good work. That is the only way to shut them up. That night, Sophia was full of questions. How was the first day? What was the office like? Did Elena have her own desk? Elena answered cheerfully, not mentioning the whispers, the doubts, the subtle hostility. Sophia did not need to know about that. Sophia needed to believe that hard work and courage were rewarded. But that night, lying in bed, Eleanor stared at the ceiling and wondered if she had made a terrible mistake. Maybe she should have stayed invisible. Maybe this new visibility came with a price she was not ready to pay. The weeks that followed were difficult. Elena worked harder than she had ever worked in her life. Claire was a demanding but fair teacher. She gave Elena stacks of financial reports to review, teaching her how to spot irregularities, how to trace money flows, how to ask the right questions. Elena absorbed everything. She stayed late every night, studying accounting textbooks Arthur had provided. She watched online courses on financial analysis. She was determined to prove she belonged. But the whispers continued, in the break room, in the elevators. Once she walked past a group of junior analysts and heard one of them say, "Must be nice to sleep your way into a $6,500 a month job." Elena kept walking, her face burning, her hands clenched. Paul was the worst. He never missed an opportunity to undermine her. In meetings, he would make comments like, "Well, Elena might not understand this, since she is still learning the basics. Or this requires knowledge of generally accepted accounting principles, Elena. Have you gotten to that chapter yet?" David and Rebecca were kind, but they were also busy with their own work. Elena was on her own. 2 months into the job, Claire called Elena into her office. "Sit down, Elena. We need to talk." Elena's heart sank. This was it. She was going to be fired. She was not good enough. But Claire surprised her. "I am promoting you." Elena stared. "What?" "You heard me. I'm promoting you to junior auditor, effective immediately. Your salary will increase to $7,800 a month. But I have only been here 2 months. I'm still learning. And you are learning faster than anyone I have ever trained. Elena, in the past 8 weeks, you have found 6 significant discrepancies in expense reports that everyone else missed. Small things, but they add up. You saved the company $43,000 in fraudulent expense claims. Elena had not realized anyone was keeping track. Claire leaned forward. "You have a gift. I do not know if it is natural talent or if it comes from your background, from having to watch every penny your whole life. But you see things others do not. That is invaluable in this department." "Thank you," Elena whispered. "But Claire, some people here do not think I belong. They think I only got this job because of what happened with Arthur. I know. I hear the gossip too." Claire's voice turned hard. "Let me tell you something, Elena. I have worked in corporate America for 30 years. I have seen every kind of unfairness, every kind of prejudice. And you know what the only thing is that ever shuts people up? Results. You keep finding what they miss. You keep proving your value. Eventually, they will have no choice but to respect you." Elena wanted to believe that. She desperately wanted to believe that. 3 months after Elena started in internal audit, the test came. It was a Wednesday afternoon. Elena was reviewing a quarterly expense report from the marketing department when Paul walked over to her cubicle. He was holding a thick folder and wearing a smile that made Elena immediately suspicious. "Elena, I need your help with something," he said, his tone overly friendly. "What is it?" "This is the expense report from our VP of International Sales, Roger Vance. Very important guy. Harvard MBA. Been with the company for 8 years. His report is due to Arthur by Friday, and I am absolutely drowning in other work. Claire said you could handle it." Eleanor doubted Claire had said any such thing, but she nodded. "Okay. What do you need me to do?" "Just verify everything. Make sure all the receipts match the claims, that the totals are correct, that everything is properly categorized. Standard audit stuff. Should be easy for someone with your talents." He dropped the folder on her desk with a heavy thump. It was at least 3 inches thick. "This needs to be done by Friday morning?" Elena asked. "Friday at 8 a.m. Roger is very particular about deadlines." "And Elena?" Paul's smile widened. "Try not to mess this up. Roger is not the kind of guy who tolerates incompetence. If you flag something wrong and you are mistaken, he will make sure Arthur knows." He walked away, leaving Elena staring at the massive folder. She opened it. Her heart sank. The report covered 6 months of expenses across 12 different countries: flights, hotels, client dinners, conference fees, transportation. Hundreds of receipts, many in foreign languages and foreign currencies. The total claimed was over $380,000. This was not a normal assignment for a junior auditor. This was deliberately meant to overwhelm her. Eleanor looked at the clock. It was 2:30 p.m. on Wednesday. She had less than 42 hours. She could go to Claire and ask for help, but that would look like she could not handle the work. That would prove Paul right. Or she could do what she always did: put her head down and work. Elena took the folder home that night. After putting Sophia to bed, she sat at their small kitchen table and began going through every single page. The work was tedious and exhausting. She had to verify credit card statements against receipts, check hotel invoices against claimed dates, convert foreign currencies using historical exchange rates, confirm that client dinners actually included clients and were not just personal meals. She worked until 3 in the morning. Then she woke up at 6, got Sophia ready for school, and went back to work. By Thursday evening, she was 3/4 through the report. Everything seemed legitimate. Roger Vance was meticulous. His documentation was perfect, almost too perfect. Eleanor rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the next section. Entertainment expenses. Client dinners in London, Paris, Tokyo, Dubai. She began cross-referencing the restaurant receipts with the client names listed. One dinner in London caught her attention. The receipt was from a high-end steakhouse. The total was $2,300. The client listed was James Chen, CEO, Luxford Industries. Something about it bothered Elena, though she could not say why. She opened her laptop and searched for Luxford Industries. The company existed. James Chen was indeed the CEO, but then she noticed something. The date of the dinner was April 15th. She searched for James Chen's public appearances. According to a press release from Luxford Industries, James Chen had given a speech at a conference in Singapore on April 15th. He could not have been in London that day. Elena's pulse quickened. She went back through the other client dinners, checking dates more carefully now. Over the next 2 hours, she found 5 more inconsistencies. Dinners claimed with clients who were provably somewhere else on those dates. She kept digging. She pulled up Roger's travel calendar, which was in the company system. On the night of that London dinner, Roger was indeed in London, but the client he claimed to be entertaining was on the other side of the world, which meant Roger had been at that restaurant, but not with a client. The dinner was personal, and he had claimed it as a business expense. Elena checked the other suspicious dinners. Same pattern: real restaurants, real receipts, but fake clients. Her hands started shaking. This was fraud, not a small error, deliberate, systematic fraud. She spent the rest of the night documenting everything. She compiled a detailed report showing the discrepancies, including printouts of press releases and public records proving the clients were not where Roger claimed they were. By Friday morning at 7 a.m., Eleanor had found over $115,000 in fraudulent expenses, spread across the 6-month period. She printed everything, put it in a folder, and walked into Claire's office at 7:30. Claire looked up from her computer, surprised. "Elena, I thought you were working on the Vance report. Is there a problem?" "Yes," Elena said quietly. She placed the folder on Claire's desk. "There is a very big problem." Claire opened the folder and began reading. Elena watched her face change. Confusion, shock, anger. "Are you certain about this?" Claire asked, her voice tight. I verified everything 3 times. The clients were not where he said they were. The expenses are fraudulent." Claire was silent for a long moment. Then she picked up her phone. "I need to call Arthur. Right now." 30 minutes later, Eleanor was sitting in Arthur Pierce's office again, but this time Claire was with her. And Roger Vance was being summoned. Arthur read through Eleanor's report in silence. His jaw was clenched. When he finished, he looked at Elena with something like awe. "How did you catch this? These expenses have been approved for years. I have signed off on Roger's reports myself." "I noticed a date did not make sense," Eleanor said, "so I checked the others." "A date," Arthur repeated. "One date out of hundreds of expenses. And you noticed." Before Elena could respond, there was a knock on the door. Roger Vance walked in, looking confused and slightly annoyed. Roger was in his early 40s, with perfect hair and an expensive suit. He had the kind of confidence that came from never being questioned. "Arthur, you wanted to see me. I have a meeting with the Tokyo office in 20 minutes, so if we could make this quick." "Sit down, Roger," Arthur said coldly. Roger's smile faltered. He sat down, his eyes moving between Arthur, Claire, and Eleanor. When he saw Eleanor, his expression shifted to confusion. "What is this about?" Arthur slid the folder across his desk. "This is about $115,000 you have stolen from this company over the past 6 months. The color drained from Roger's face. "That is absurd. I have no idea what you are talking about." "Your expense report," Claire said, her voice like ice. "The one you submitted last week. Elena audited it. She found that you have been claiming dinners with clients who were not actually present. You used real receipts, real restaurants, but fake clients." Roger's eyes darted to Elena. There was hatred there now, and fear. "That is ridiculous. This is some kind of mistake. Who is going to believe a cleaning lady over me?" "I would be careful with your next words," Arthur said quietly, "because Elena has documented proof, press releases, public records, travel logs, everything needed to prove you are lying." He opened the folder and began reading. "April 15th. You claimed a dinner in London with James Chen, but James Chen was giving a speech in Singapore that day. June 3rd. You claimed a dinner in Paris with Sandra Okoye, but Sandra Okoye was testifying before a Senate committee in Washington, D.C. Should I continue?" Roger was sweating now. "Those must be errors in my calendar. I was entertaining clients. I just got the names wrong." "Over 6 months straight," Claire said. "You got the names wrong dozens of times, but the receipts are all real and all very expensive." "Roger, we are not stupid." Arthur leaned forward. "You have been stealing from this company, significant amounts, and you have been doing it in a way that was designed to be undetectable. If Elena had not caught one date inconsistency, you would have gotten away with it." "This is insane," Roger said, standing up. "I have given 8 years to this company. I have an MBA from Harvard, and you are going to believe some immigrant who was scrubbing toilets 3 months ago." "Yes," Arthur said simply, "because she is telling the truth, and you are not. You are fired, Roger, effective immediately. Security is waiting outside to escort you out. We are also referring this matter to law enforcement. You can expect criminal charges for embezzlement." Roger's face went from white to red. He looked at Elena with pure venom. "You have no idea what you just did. I have friends in this industry. I will make sure everyone knows what kind of person you are. I will destroy you." "Get out," Arthur said, his voice hard as stone. "Now." Security came in and escorted Roger out. His shouts echoed down the hallway until the elevator doors closed. The office was silent. Then Arthur turned to Elena. "That is twice now. Twice you have saved this company from fraud. Do you understand how extraordinary that is?" Elena was shaking. "I just did my job." "No," Claire said. "You did more than your job. Elena, people like Roger rely on everyone being too busy or too intimidated to actually verify their claims. You were neither. You were thorough. You were brave enough to flag it even though he outranked you. That takes courage most people do not have. The news about Roger Vance spread through Pierce Holdings like wildfire. By Monday morning, everyone knew. The VP of International Sales, Harvard MBA, 8-year veteran, had been caught stealing and fired by a junior auditor who had been cleaning toilets 4 months earlier. The reactions were divided. Some people were impressed. Elena received congratulatory emails from colleagues she had never met. David and Rebecca took her to lunch to celebrate. Even the receptionist on the 15th floor gave her a high five. But others were resentful, angry, threatened. If a cleaning lady with no degree could expose a Harvard MBA, what did that say about everyone else? If Elena could find fraud that senior executives had missed for months, who else might she expose next? Elena felt the shift. Conversation stopped when she entered the break room. People were friendlier to her face, but she heard the whispers behind her back. She got lucky twice. She is just trying to make everyone else look bad. Wait until she makes a mistake. Arthur will drop her so fast. Paul, Roger's friend, was openly hostile now. He barely spoke to her. When he did, his tone was ice cold. But Eleanor kept her head down and kept working. That was all she could do. 2 weeks after the Roger Vance incident, Arthur called Elena to his office again. When she arrived, Claire was already there, smiling. "Sit down, Elena," Arthur said. He looked pleased. "We have been discussing your future here at Pierce Holdings." Elena's stomach tightened. The word future could mean anything. "In the 4 months you have been with us," Arthur continued, "you have found discrepancies that saved this company over $2 million when you factor in the bankruptcy fraud Marcus attempted. You have proven beyond any doubt that you belong in internal audit. More than belong. You excel." Claire nodded. "Eleanor, I have worked with dozens of auditors over the years. Most of them are competent. A few are good. But you have something I have only seen once or twice in my entire career. You have instinct. You know where to look. You know when something does not feel right. I am promoting you again," Arthur said, "to senior auditor. Your salary will be $9,800 per month, and I am assigning you to lead a special task force." Elena could barely process what she was hearing. Senior auditor. After 4 months. People spent years earning that title. "What kind of task force?" she asked. "Fraud prevention and detection," Arthur said. "Roger was not the only one. I am certain of it. This company has grown fast over the past decade. We have 400 employees across multiple departments. I need someone to systematically audit every expense report, every contract, every financial claim from the past 2 years. I need someone I can trust to find what others miss. That someone is you." "I will be the lead," Elena asked, still stunned. "But I have only been doing this for 4 months. There are people with years of experience, and those people did not catch Marcus. They did not catch Roger. You did." Arthur's voice was firm. "Experience does not mean much if you are not looking in the right places. Elena, I trust you. The question is, do you trust yourself?" Elena thought about Sophia, about the little girl who watched her mother with such pride, about the kind of example she wanted to set. "Yes," she said, "I trust myself. I will do it." Claire smiled. "Good. You will have a team of 3 people under you. You choose who. You will report directly to me. You have full authority to audit any department, any employee, any level. No one is off limits." Over the next 3 months, Elena's task force worked tirelessly. She chose David and 2 other auditors she trusted. Together, they went through mountains of financial records. They found a procurement officer who had been accepting kickbacks from suppliers. $58,000 recovered. They found a department head who had been approving overtime for employees who were not actually working those hours. $33,000 recovered. They found a pattern of inflated travel expenses across multiple departments. Over $190,000 recovered. Every discovery made Elena more confident, but it also made her more enemies. The employees who were caught resented her. The departments that were audited complained about the disruption. Managers who had failed to catch the fraud in their own teams felt embarrassed and defensive. Elena heard the new nickname people had given her, the Snitch. It stung, but she kept working. One evening, as she was leaving the building, she found a note taped to her car windshield. It was written in block letters, "Go back to cleaning toilets before something bad happens to you and your daughter." Elena's blood ran cold. They were threatening Sophia. She immediately called Arthur and showed him the note. He contacted building security and filed a police report. For 2 weeks, a security guard escorted Elena to and from her car. Nothing else happened, but the fear lingered. Sophia noticed her mother was stressed. One night at dinner, the 12-year-old looked at Elena with worried eyes. "Mama, are you okay? You seem sad." Elena forced a smile. "I am fine, Mija. Just tired from work." "Are people being mean to you?" Elena hesitated. She had tried to shield Sophia from the uglier parts of her new job, but Sophia was smart. She could sense when something was wrong. "Some people are," Elena admitted. "Some people do not like that I am doing well." Sophia frowned. "That is stupid. You work so hard. You help people." "I know, baby, but sometimes when you do well, especially when you are not supposed to according to other people, it makes them uncomfortable. It makes them question themselves, and instead of looking inward, they blame you." Sophia was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that made Elena's heart ache with pride. "You taught me to always do the right thing, even when it is hard. Even when people do not like it. That is what you are doing now, right?" "Yes," Elena whispered. "That is exactly what I'm doing." "Then keep doing it, Mama. I am proud of you." Elena hugged her daughter tightly, tears streaming down her face. As long as Sophia believed in her, as long as her daughter knew that integrity mattered more than popularity, Elena could endure anything. 6 months after Elena started her task force, Arthur called another meeting. This time, it was in the boardroom. Claire was there. So were several other executives Elena did not know well. "Elena," Arthur began, "your task force has recovered over $2 million in fraudulent expenses and prevented future losses that we estimate could have reached $5 million. You have identified systemic weaknesses in our approval processes and recommended changes that have already made this company significantly more secure." He paused. "But I did not bring you here just to thank you. I brought you here to ask you something." Elena waited, her heart pounding. "I am starting a foundation," Arthur said. "A non-profit organization dedicated to supporting whistleblowers, people who expose fraud, who stand up to corruption, who risk everything to tell the truth, especially people from vulnerable communities who do not have resources or protection." He looked directly at her. "The foundation will be called See and Act, because that is what you did, Elena. You saw what others missed, and you acted when you had everything to lose. I want this foundation to help others do the same, to give them legal support, financial assistance, protection, to make sure that courage is rewarded instead of punished." Elena felt tears welling up. This was exactly what her father had needed, what so many people like him needed. "That is beautiful," she said softly. "But why are you telling me?" Arthur smiled. "Because I want you to run it. I want you to be the executive director of the See and Act Foundation." Elena stared at him in shock. "Me? Arthur, I do not have experience running a non-profit. I do not have—" "You have something better than experience," Arthur interrupted. "You have lived it. You know what it feels like to be invisible, to be powerless, to risk everything to do the right thing. You know what people in that position need, because you were one of them. That is worth more than any MBA or non-profit management course." Claire leaned forward. "Elena, this foundation could change lives. It could prevent what happened to your father from happening to others. Arthur is offering you the chance to turn your pain into purpose. That is rare. That is precious. Elena looked around the table. These executives, these powerful people, were looking at her with respect, with trust, with belief. 4 months ago, she had been invisible. Now she was being offered the chance to lead an organization that would make other invisible people visible. "Yes," she said, her voice strong and clear. "I will do it. I will run the foundation." Arthur's smile was radiant. "Then let us change the world, Elena, together." Executive Director. The title felt foreign. It tasted strange on her tongue. For the first 2 weeks, Elena still woke up at 4 a.m., her body programmed for the graveyard shift, her hands reaching for cleaning gloves that were not there. She moved out of the internal audit department on the 15th floor and into a corner office on the 40th floor, 2 doors down from Arthur's. The office was beautiful, with plush carpets and a wide desk made of light-colored wood. But for the first week, Elena felt like an imposter. She felt once again like she was wearing clothes that did not belong to her. She had spent 4 months learning to be an auditor. She knew how to find the lie in the numbers. She knew how to trace the patterns. But this new job had no patterns. She was not finding fraud. She was building a safe harbor for people who had. Arthur had been generous. The See and Act Foundation was capitalized with an initial donation of $5 million from Pierce Holdings. Her job was to build it from nothing, hire staff, create guidelines, find the people who needed help. The first person she hired was Rebecca, the blonde auditor who had warned her about the gossip. Rebecca had confessed that she, too, had once been punished for pointing out a manager's error and was impressed by Elena's courage. Elena knew she needed someone she could trust, someone who understood the numbers. Her second hire was a former public defender named Michael, a man with tired eyes and a fierce sense of justice. Together, they began to build, but doubt was a heavy shadow. The old whispers had been replaced by new ones. Now, she was not just the cleaning lady who got lucky. She was the cleaning lady running a multi-million-dollar non-profit. She would sit in her large office, looking at the city skyline, and her hands would tremble. What if she failed? What if she failed Arthur's trust? What if she failed the people she was supposed to help? She remembered the fear she felt holding that yellow sticky note. She had learned that courage was not the absence of fear. It was the act of doing the right thing even when you were terrified. And she was terrified. 4 weeks into her new role, the Foundation's dedicated hotline rang for the first time. Elena had insisted on answering the calls herself at the beginning. See and Act Foundation. This is Elena Sanchez. The voice on the other end was a whisper. A man. He sounded scared. I do not know if I am calling the right place. I read an article about your foundation, about you. You are in the right place, Elena said, her voice steady and calm. You do not have to give me your name. Just tell me what is wrong. My name is Thomas, the man said, his voice cracking. I am an orderly at a hospital in Queens. I have been working there for 9 years. It is a good job. I need this job. I have 2 kids. Elena's heart tightened. She knew this preamble. She knew the fear of risking a job you could not afford to lose. It is okay, Thomas. You are safe. They are doing something wrong, he whispered. The billing department. I saw it. I was emptying the trash in the billing manager's office late one night, and a report fell out of the shredder pile. It was not fully shredded. I saw the numbers. Elena pulled a legal pad toward her. What numbers, Thomas? They are billing for procedures that never happened. They are charging Medicare for expensive medications, but giving patients the cheap, generic version. I started watching. I started matching the supply orders I pick up from the loading dock with the patient charts I see. It is not just 1 or 2. It is hundreds of patients. They are stealing millions. Elena closed her eyes. It was her father. It was Arthur. It was fraud. hidden in plain sight, preying on the most vulnerable. "Thomas," she said, "I believe you. But why did you call us? Why not go to the hospital administration?" He let out a short, bitter laugh. "The billing manager is the hospital president's nephew. The administration knows. I am sure of it. If I say anything, I am just an orderly. They will fire me. They will say I am lying. They will ruin me." "No, they will not," Eleanor said. And the fear she had felt all month finally evaporated, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. This was why she was here. "Thomas, I want you to listen to me very carefully. You did the hardest part. You saw it, and you decided to act. Now we are going to act with you. Our foundation will provide you with a lawyer completely free of charge. We will provide you with financial protection if you face retaliation. We will help you organize the evidence you have, and we will get it to the Attorney General's office." I could lose my job," he whispered. "You might," Elena said honestly, "but you will not be alone. And with the evidence you have, you will be protected under federal whistleblower laws. You will not lose your home. You will not lose your life. We will make sure of that." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then Thomas said, "I have been keeping copies in a storage unit. I have been so scared. I thought I was crazy." "You are not crazy," Elena said, her voice hardening with purpose. "You are brave, and we are going to help you." For the next 6 weeks, Elena, Michael, and Rebecca worked tirelessly on Thomas's case. It was exactly what Marcus Thorne had done, but worse. This was not about corporate assets. It was about stealing from the sick and the elderly. Eleanor felt the old fire return. She guided Michael, the lawyer, on where to look, what numbers to ask for. She used her auditing skills to see the patterns in the billing codes that Thomas provided. When they presented the file to the state attorney general, the case was so airtight that the investigation moved faster than anyone expected. 2 months later, the story broke. The hospital president, his nephew, and 3 billing managers were arrested. The hospital was forced into receivership and fined $48 million. In the press conference, the attorney general praised the courage of one hospital employee who dared to speak up. The foundation, as promised, protected Thomas's identity, but the victory felt enormous. Elena was in her office, reading an article about the arrests, when Arthur Pierce knocked on her open door. He had not interfered at all, trusting her to run the foundation as she saw fit. "I saw the news," he said, a quiet smile on his face. $48 million. Thomas gets a percentage of that, according to the whistleblower laws, Elena said. "He is moving his family to a new house. He said he wants to go back to school." "You did that, Eleanor." "We did it," she corrected. "This is what you wanted, right? See and act." "Yes," Arthur said, walking over to her window. He looked out at the city. "When Marcus almost destroyed me, I was angry. But when Roger Vance was stealing from me, I was just tired. I thought, maybe this is just how the world works. Maybe everyone is just on the take." He turned to look at her, and his eyes were full of a deep, profound gratitude. "You reminded me that one person with integrity, can stop the entire machine. You did it for me, and now you are doing it for others." Eleanor stood and joined him at the window. They looked down at the city, at the millions of people rushing to their jobs, living their lives. Invisible. "There are more of them out there," Elena said quietly. "More people like Thomas, more people like me. We just need to find them." "No," Arthur said. "They will find you. You have built a lighthouse, Elena. Now they know where to find the shore." 1 year passed. The See and Act Foundation, which had started as a 3-person team in a quiet office, had become a force. The name Elena Sanchez was no longer whispered in the hallways of Pierce Holdings with suspicion or resentment. It was spoken in courtrooms, in news articles, and in hushed, hopeful phone calls from people in desperate situations. Her old task force in the Internal Audit Department, now permanently led by David, had continued to use the methods she established. Arthur mentioned at a quarterly review that her systems had saved the company just over $2 million in a single year. The culture of perfect paperwork that no one checked was over. Elena had, in effect, taught an entire company how to see. But Elena's focus was on the foundation. In that first year, they had taken on 47 cases. Not all were as large as Thomas's. There was a teacher from the Bronx who discovered her school's principal was selling donated computers and replacing them with broken, outdated models. The foundation protected her, and she was now running the district's technology program. There was a construction foreman who reported that his company was using substandard steel in a new high-rise, pocketing the difference. He had been threatened. The foundation relocated his family for 3 months while the investigation took place, and he was now a senior safety inspector for the city. There was a single mother working in a meatpacking plant who reported that managers were forcing employees to work with unsafe equipment and changing the dates on time cards to avoid paying overtime. The foundation organized a class action lawsuit and protected her from being fired. With each case, Eleanor felt a piece of her father's story being rewritten. She was giving people the one thing her father never had: a voice, a defender, the knowledge that they were not alone. She became an expert in the mechanics of courage. She learned that most people were not heroes because they were fearless. They were heroes because their sense of right and wrong was, by the smallest fraction, stronger than their fear. Her job was to widen that fraction, to add her strength to theirs. She was not the same woman who had scrubbed toilets on the 47th floor. She still wore simple clothes, but now they were chosen with confidence. She still spoke softly, but her words carried the weight of experience and authority. She had testified before a city council committee. She had debated lawyers from billion-dollar corporations. She had looked men in the eye, men just like Marcus Thorne, men just like Roger Vance, and she had not backed down. The press had started to notice. An article in a city business journal called her the Auditor of Justice. It told her story, the full story: the cleaning cart, the bankruptcy file, the sticky note. The article went viral, but not for the reasons Elena expected. It was not the drama that captured people. It was the idea that someone who had been invisible could hold so much power. Sophia, now 13, had the article taped to her bedroom wall. She was proud. For Elena, that was the only review that mattered. One afternoon in late October, almost 2 years after that fateful morning, an email arrived in her inbox. It was not from a whistleblower. It was not from a lawyer. It was from the dean of the New York University School of Law. They were hosting a conference on ethics, law, and corporate responsibility. They had read the articles about her. They had followed the work of the See and Act Foundation. They wanted Elena Sanchez to be the keynote speaker. Elena stared at the email. Speak? On a stage? At a university, in front of hundreds of law students, professors, and industry leaders? The old panic flickered. The familiar voice whispered, "You are just a cleaning lady. You do not have a degree. You do not belong there." She closed her eyes. She pictured Thomas, the orderly. She pictured the teacher from the Bronx. She pictured her father, his shoulders slumped in defeat, signing papers he did not understand. She opened her eyes. The fear was still there, but it was small. She wrote back, "Dear Dean Miller, I would be honored to accept." She thought about what she would say. She thought about what all those years of silence had taught her. She knew now. She finally knew. The night of the speech, she stood backstage, looking out at the packed auditorium. It was a massive room, full of dark wood and red velvet seats. It was the most terrifying place she had ever been. Michael, her foundation's lawyer, squeezed her shoulder. "You are going to be great, Elena. Just tell them your story." "I'm not nervous about my story," Elena whispered. "I'm nervous they will not understand." "Understand what?" "That this was not about me. It was about the numbers. It was about seeing what was right in front of everyone." Michael smiled. "Elena, you were the only one who saw it, because you were the only one who was really looking. Now go tell them why." The dean walked to the podium. "And now, it is my great honor to introduce a woman who has redefined what courage and integrity mean in this city. A woman who proved that you do not need a fancy degree or a high-ranking title to change the world. You just need to be willing to see and to act. Please welcome the Executive Director of the See and Act Foundation, Elena Sanchez." Elena took a deep breath. She thought of her daughter, sitting in the third row. She thought of Arthur Pierce, sitting right beside her. She walked out of the darkness of the wings and into the bright, warm light of the stage. The applause was deafening. Elena walked to the podium. She looked down at her hands, the hands that had scrubbed floors, held a shaky phone to photograph evidence, and signed the paperwork to launch a foundation. They were steady now. She looked out at the sea of faces, students, professors, lawyers. They were all looking at her, waiting. She did not read from her prepared notes. Instead, she spoke from the heart. "Good evening," she said, her voice clear and strong, amplified by the microphone. "My name is Elena Sanchez, and 2 years ago, I was invisible." She let the words hang in the silent auditorium. "I was a cleaning lady. I worked the graveyard shift. I cleaned the offices of powerful people, people who never saw me. I was a ghost who emptied their trash, a shadow who wiped their desks. To the world, my job was to be unseen. We live in a world that is obsessed with titles, with degrees, with corner offices and expensive suits. We are taught to listen to the people on the stage and to ignore the people cleaning it." She paused, her eyes finding Sophia in the crowd. Her daughter was watching her, tears glistening in her eyes, a smile of pure pride on her face. "But what I have learned," Elena continued, "is that when you are invisible, you see things. You see things that the important, busy people miss. You see the details in the margins. You see the numbers that do not add up. You see the truth that is hiding in plain sight. The people who the world ignores are, very often, the ones who see with the most clarity." She thought about Marcus Thorne and Roger Vance, men so blinded by their own arrogance that they never imagined a cleaning lady could understand their secrets. "I am here tonight not because I am special. I am here because on one morning at 6:55 a.m. I had a choice. I could stay invisible, stay safe, and let something terrible happen, or I could take the one thing I had, the truth, and make it visible. Courage, I learned, is not about being loud. It is not about being powerful. It is about being the only one who says no, that is wrong, in a room full of people who are too busy or too scared to check the math." She looked across the audience, making eye contact. "Many of you are here to learn how to be successful, how to be powerful, how to be seen. But my advice to you is different. Do not wait for someone to see you. Do not wait for someone to give you permission to have a voice. Have the courage to see for yourself. And when you see something wrong, have the courage to make yourself heard. Have the courage to act." She took a breath, her voice filled with emotion. "My father lost his dream because no one saw the lie. We are building a world where people like him are not just seen, but they are defended. Thank you." For a moment, there was silence. The silence of 1,000 people holding their breath. Then, the applause started. It started in the third row, where Arthur Pierce was on his feet, his eyes wet with tears, clapping so hard his hands were red. Beside him, Sophia was standing on her chair, tears streaming down her face, cheering, "Mama! Mama!" Then the entire auditorium rose to its feet. The applause was thunderous. It washed over Elena, a wave of respect, of acknowledgement. Elena Sanchez stood in the bright light, No longer an auditor, no longer a cleaning lady, no longer a ghost. She was, finally and completely, visible.